Well, we're here again, and this time we're in the Britain Norman Islander, looking at a couple of panels for it. We'll get into the details of the panel, I guess, in a bit, but I've been having a few problems with this particular aircraft. Engine-wise, I think I've cracked them now, but rather than me start cold and dark, which is what I would normally do, I've decided, well, I did start cold and dark, but I've managed to keep the engine running, and we're on the runway now, so rather than quit and turn them off, we'll get underway and we'll talk about the panels a little bit more. So because we're in the Islander, I thought I'd come somewhere that's synonymous with the Islander itself. So I'm in Bembridge on the Isle of Wight, and we're flying over to Lyon-Solent, so two airfields that are heavily linked with the production of the Islander these days. And so I thought it would be only apt that we do this short flight over from the Isle of Wight over onto the mainland in the south of England. So without further ado, I guess we should get underway. Really concerned about these engines quitting on me, so let's get going.
Leaving altitude.
So, good. So we'll turn, make our turn now to intercept our course here that you can see. A bit misty there. Apologies for the flight controls today. I'm very much still between flight sim PC, so I'm having to make do with what I've got here, just an old joystick and a twist grip rudder and not what I would normally fly with, even when I was doing the videos before and they weren't on the full flight sims setup. I had a bit of a better setup than this. This is really rudimentary, but it does the job. So we're still hand flying here, so we're going to put the autopilot on. Make sure that we're on GPS. We are. Nav, and I think we're going to climb to, oh, I don't know what we are now, 1500. We're not going to go very far, are we? So let's just say 2000. Okay, just coming. So we're probably going to get there in pretty short time, so we might just circle for a bit while we're talking, and then we'll land if we can see the airfield. Not looking too clever at the moment, is it? Anyway, so these are the Britain Norman Islander panels. You can see that they're in this bluey grey type instrument panel background, but in the simulated aircraft, they're obviously there's a few different liveries, and with those different liveries come different instrument panel colours. So the military ones tend to be like a matte black type finish, and there's a variation between the other ones of this grey blue colour and a creamy colour. So similar to what I did with the 152 when I had a hidden button on the instrument vacuum gauge. I've done the same. So on the instrument vacuum gauge, which you can see down here on the left side panel, if you click it, you get a variation of different panels. That's the creamy beige one, there's your matte black, and then we're back to the bluey grey one. So you can fly whatever instrument panel you like with whatever livery. It doesn't really tie you in, which is nice. And then one of the other things that's configurable within the sim is you can switch between your steam gauge main flight instruments and the Aspen by clicking on a placard on the instrument panel. Well, we've got that similar placard up here, just above the 6-pack here, on the left-hand instrument panel. And what that does is it does the same as what it does in the sim. It brings up an Aspen on the Air Manager panel. You can see additional circuit breaker popped up there on the right-hand side panel for these additional Aspen type features, and you can see these flight instruments have reconfigured a little bit, so the attitude has gone from up here down into this turn and slip location, and the turn and slip has moved up here, and the DG's gone completely. Now this is I guess I ought to point out that this Aspen is the Sim Innovations Aspen. So what it will do is it will look to see if you've got the Sim Innovations Aspen installed on this version of Air Manager, and if you have, then it will find it and this feature will work. If you don't have it, then obviously it won't. So you do need to have that Aspen already pre-existing for that feature to work. But I thought I'd integrate that into the panel. It's a nice feature. The Sim aircraft does have an Aspen option, so rather than me do all of the whole Aspen again, which would have been a lot of work, there's already quite a nice one already by Sim Innovations. So I thought I'd incorporate that. So for those that have got that already or would like to get it, you can get that, add that in, and then you can fly on the Aspen. We can fly on the Steam, so you can just toggle the placard accordingly for whatever you want. So I'm just going to back down these props a little bit here. We're still finished our climb for a bit, and we're overflown where we're going as well. So I think what we'll do is we'll go back onto heading mode, and we'll come back round. I've gone the wrong way here. So I'm able to use a mouse here as well. I've never got my knobster connected up, so apologies for that. But obviously all this is all knobster capable normally. We'll select heading mode on the autopilot, and she should bank to return round, and she is. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get down to the airfield. The visibility is pretty poor. Maybe I'll come down to about 1,000 feet circuit altitude and see if we can see the ground. It's touch and go, eh? We'll come back a little bit first, and then we'll start to descend. Okay, so the rest of the panel,
leaving
you can
altitude.
see there you've got your traditional 6-pack. If you have or you don't have the Aspen, it doesn't really matter. You've still got your heading plug there on your DG if you need to use that. Your usual 6-pack there. There's EGT needles there for each engine. Carb ice, very, very important in this aircraft. Causes a lot of problems, as I've come to discover. Even this time, it's not just a case of having the needles out of the yellow. Once you get a bit of carb ice, you kind of really need to go full carb ice. Get these needles right up there, plenty of heat. Melt any ice that happens to be in that carburetor, because it does affect your engine performance. So if ever you're getting any issues in the Isle of Wight with engine performance, don't just rely on the fact that these needles are just out of that icing zone. If there was any danger or they were close to it before, and you start to suffer engine performance, get those carb heats onto full. Hopefully it won't be too long before you get your engine performance back, and then of course you can back these down a little bit if you need to. So that's a very useful instrument. There's the instrument air gauge that we use to toggle the liveries, sorry, not the liveries, that the instrument panel back on there is quite nice. Blue and the cream, quite like the cream one myself, but I guess that's a personal choice. Then you got your CDIs for your nav 1 and your nav 2, and then we start with the engine instrumentation, so RPM, manifold pressure, and fuel flows there. There's an ADF, VOR, RMI at the top there, so it's a slaved unit, so there's no knob, so it will align itself to the directional gyro there, you can see. And then over on the left hand side there's a set of engine instruments in a cluster. So your oil temp, sorry, your cylinder temperature, your oil temperature, your oil pressure and your fuel pressure. A bank there for each engine. Some switches there for your doors. So these open all the doors on the Islander, so when you're on the ground and you're either disembarking or you're getting people on board and loading cargo, etc. These switches operate all the doors. They're like that in the sim, obviously they're not there in real life because obviously you physically open the door, but they're for simulation purposes. So I've included those on the panel. An OAT gauge up the top there, and then some annunciators here. You can see there's some generator ones there, then some ILS related marker beacon lights there, and then one for the doors and if the gyro were to fail. And then on the right hand side panel we've got a GPS with a GNS 530 there. There's a Navcom, a second Navcom radio GX165. We've got a transponder, there's an ADF, there's a DME and an autopilot. So it's quite capable. I mean, you can fly and do pretty much whatever navigation you want with this aircraft, albeit in, you know, slightly older instrumentation, as it were. Now the other thing about this aircraft is what can we safely turn off? I guess navigation radio 2 would be a good one, because we're not using that right now. It's working circuit breakers, so I've incorporated the working circuit breakers into the air manager panel, which took a bit of work. So let's see if I can find VHF 2. There we go. So VHF 2, if I pop the circuit breaker, you see the panel is lost, the power is lost to the instrument in the panel there. Re-establish that by pushing the breaker in again. So that mirrors the circuit breaker panel, and you saw when we had the Aspen up that there's an additional circuit breaker panel there. I think the only one that's really going to affect one of these instruments here is the autopilot. We'll turn the autopilot off. Why that's not there, because that autopilot is there in the default aircraft, but that's just how it is in the simulated aircraft, so I kept it the same. Avionics master switch up here, and then I guess if we're looking at the oh, I should actually have them on. If we're looking at these couple of pop-up panels now, we've got a couple of engine OBS meters there, some anti-ice related switches here. These are your lights switches, and there's a panel dimmer there, so it's got the night lighting as well, and these illuminate your instruments. All that dimmer does, and then your main electrical switches. We'll leave that on. And then in the overhead, which is above the windshield in the real aircraft, sort of spans the length across the top of the windshield. You've got your mag switches, your starter, that's a cover on that. We can close that down. There's your flap position, which I think actually, now we're going to slow a little bit and land, we can probably put a notch of flaps in. That'll help us. There's our fuel quantity, there's some fuel pump switches as well, and that's our current and volts. See, we're nicely in the green there, and the voltage is reading. Really nice with those generators on. Now, the overhead and let's bring the other one up here, the electrical panel down here. They have some additional features when you load up the Maritime Defender. So when you load up the Maritime Defender, you get some additional switches and annunciators for the fuel transfer system, because that particular aircraft has got some wing pods and some wing tip tanks on it that you can use those switches and the annunciations or knowing how the transfer of fuel is going between those tanks and the main Norman Islander tanks, so it enables it to fly obviously for longer with extra fuel in those carry tanks. So that's what those controls are. If you were to load up the Maritime, that would come up automatically on those switch panels. It detects that the Maritime has been loaded, and it gives you those additional features that are in the simulated aircraft for the Maritime Defender variant. So I guess what we ought to do, I mean, we've flown well off here. This is really such a short flight that we'll turn again. Whoops. A bit fast there. Yes, and we'll come round to actually try and see if we can get down and land now. Be okay, we'll see. Let's see if we can see land there, but well, that is the Isle of Wight again. We've flown back over the Isle of Wight just while I've been rabbling there. And go aggressively. A little bit of time. Familiar with each of these airfields here, so I'm just, pardon the pun, winging it. See some needles here. Just activating for the nav radios, and we've got, not sure what that is that we're picking up there, whatever 110.5 is. Oh, we've lost it again. Certain on that, but it would certainly be in that general direction. I picked a right day for it here today. Beauty of live weather. Just about to see the ground there. We may. Looks pretty thick up ahead though. We'll see. get close. We're at 1,000 feet now, which we really shouldn't be. But I'm trying to stay low and see if I can actually see the airfield. If I can't see the airfield, I think I'm going to have to divert, which I hadn't planned on doing, but I guess that adds a bit of jeopardy into it with the real live weather here. We don't have to hang on for the video for that. I think you've seen enough of the Islander panels. Nice features there with the different backgrounds and the Aspen coming in there, and a lot of the instruments. Some, quite unique with the engine cluster here. The engine gauge is a little bit different. Some of these I've had to do for actual the audio panel here. Unique for this aircraft, the circuit breaker panels. This cluster took quite a bit of work, because it's a lot of non-standard way in which they're controlling the needles in the simulated aircraft. They're not using the standard data ref variable values. Raw, they're applying some algorithm of theirs. Maybe that's to try and get the needles to read right. But it would have been better if they'd have made the actual data right, adjusted the behaviour of the aircraft so the data output was right. They would have used the data right, but in its rawest form would have made making these gauges a lot easier, that's for sure. So there's the airfield. We're overflying now and I can't see anything. Nope, nothing. So I think what I'll do is I'll have to divert somewhere, not land at Leon-Solent like I was planning. Maybe I head up to Southampton and see if it's any clearer up there. But for the purposes of the video, we can probably end it there. Thanks for watching. These will be coming to the store at some point soon, I guess. Now that they're completed, there's a few other little things just to tidy up, but for all intents and purposes they're complete. So hopefully we'll see them in the store at some point in the not too distant future. Thanks for watching. See you again in another video. Speak to you soon. Bye.